Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are we doing? Welcome to TSK F1. My name's Rich, and this is going to be your sort of daily morning dose of Formula One news and what's going on. We're going to be talking about George's first win, Alpine and how they did, and also all of the drama around Red Bull at the minute and everything I've cobbled together through what people are saying, where from, and what I think of that entire situation. But I am just going to throw up a poll straight away, and let's see what people think. Let's see what people think. Did Perez crash on purpose in Monaco? We're going to come back to that and see what people think of that later. But right now, I'm going to go into the other news because I think it's best to start off with some positivity in the news, really, rather than something negative or potentially negative. Let's talk about something positive. And that is George Russell. I think he had an incredible weekend, really, with his first victory. I left myself questioning, does the sprint race count as a win? Does it count as a win-win? You know what I mean? Does it count as a win-win, an actual one? And I think even he didn't feel that way. I think he wanted that, if you like, feature Grand Prix victory. And then yesterday he did that. He did it magnificently. He did it absolutely magnificently. Very, very well indeed. Controlled from start to finish. Really controlled the gap. Everything that he needed to do was absolutely spot on. The strategy and, yeah, just how he managed the race. Very composed, like he'd done it a lot of times before. Just fantastic. What you'd expect, really, from a seasoned race winner. I get that he's won races in lower formula plenty. But, yeah, I just thought with a composure and everything like that. And it's overdue anyway. Some would say that he should have won back in Bahrain when he substituted in for Lewis Hamilton when he had COVID. But I couldn't really fault it, and I wanted to start with the poll, bring the poll to you guys, but I also wanted to talk about something positive, and I think most people generally are quite happy with the victory there for George Russell. Well, I say happy. I think a lot of people don't mind that victory from George Russell. And another thing, really, I honestly did not think that Mercedes would win a Grand Prix this season. I was one of those people. I thought they were in such a position that they couldn't possibly make that back up. I didn't think Mercedes could close that gap whatsoever. But it's they've done a fantastic job, haven't they? I don't think you can take that away from Mercedes. They've done a fantastic job to get back towards the front and then actually get a victory. It's quite the effort from the Mercedes team there. I think they will have appreciated the people back at base. I think they'll have appreciated the thanks from both George and Lewis for getting them in that position, because I think it's easy to forget there are so many people behind the scenes working very, very hard to get these drivers into the position they're in. Good morning, everyone. Do get involved in the poll. We're going to go through the news. I just thought it'd be better to start out with some positivity and like I say, I don't think anyone. I think most people are generally happy when a driver gets their first GP win. So congratulations to George Russell. Congratulations to Lewis on second. Sainz in third, if I'm remembering correctly. And a stellar effort from the Mercedes team. Now, does this mean Mercedes are back? Does this mean that for 2023 we're going to see Mercedes towards the front a lot more? Do we think they're going to return to the winning ways? Let me know what you think in the chat. I think they have developed more than other teams this season, certainly more than Ferrari. I think Ferrari, once they realised they weren't going to beat Red Bull, they basically stopped development. Binotto said nearly the same. And he said for a long while they've not been developing their Ferrari. So it'll be interesting to know how long they've not been developing for. And will it have been a mistake if indeed at Abu Dhabi Mercedes overtake them in the Constructors' Championship? Because I don't think that was the plan. Obviously, Mercedes wanted to keep on pushing, but I think Ferrari, at the time they stopped development, thought Mercedes couldn't catch them. I think they thought their performance would carry on until the end of the season and Mercedes would not continue to find time. And I think if people are honest, it's surprising, really. I think it is to me. I thought that Mercedes would also not take the foot off the gas, but really concentrate on next season. And I think it may have taken Ferrari a little bit by surprise. Do you think Lewis controlled second place and allowed George to win? Not especially, Stuart. I think he could have pushed the subject more, but I take Lewis Hamilton's comments as he said them, that he's very, very proud of George, very happy for George, and very, very happy for the team. I don't think he could have done a great deal more. He showed some pace and he was catching and things like that, but I genuinely think Lewis was happy with second and that situation yesterday, because only they know how hard they've worked to get into that position, you know. Hopefully they have a good car for next year. Leclerc also moaning about taking a podium off Sainz. Well, we can get into that. We can get into that as part of the Red Bull thing. I'd love to see Mercedes up at the front, but if other teams have spent more time on next year's car, they may find they're slightly behind. Yeah, and they've said that they know what is wrong with the car going into next season. So if they've got themselves into a winning position at the end of this season, know the problems with this car and it's fundamentally flawed, I'm hopeful of a three-way battle in the season, because really this season it looked like it was a two-horse race between Ferrari and Red Bull, but it hasn't really been, has it? Red Bull have been in a class of their own apart from maybe the first, 6 races, something like that. So it'll be interesting to see into next season. Abu Dhabi, it'll be interesting to see what happens as well, because Mercedes have suffered with high drag, low top-end speed, and Abu Dhabi definitely has some long straights. So we'll see in Abu Dhabi, and if Mercedes are there, then it might be reflective of some performance next season. But there we go. I think really it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic that George won. It's overdue and well deserved, well managed, spot on from me. Now I'm going to talk about Alpine a little bit, because I think as a team they were the standout performers yesterday. And I just really, they had a bit of a crazy weekend as a team, with Fernando saying one more race and it's over finally after, well, in my view, turn 4, if you watch the sprint race, in turn 4, in my view, Ocon unnecessarily crowded Alonso off the track somewhat. I know people will disagree with that, but I'm not a fan of crowding off the track. I'm not a fan of crowding off the track generally. And especially as teammates, I thought he crowded him off a little bit, and it was a little bit unnecessary. Alonso did kind of lose it a little bit and hit the side of Ocon, which caused damage to both of them. And then as they came down the start-finish straight, Alonso seemed to drive into the back of Ocon and take his front wing off. Now, I have seen a couple of comments which I don't want to be true, but I also I don't agree with them, but the way it looks, I can't say it didn't happen. A few comments have suggested that Alonso may have been trying to cause a puncture on Ocon's car, and he does hit it what you would consider correctly to try and do that. Now, I can't explain why Alonso seemed to drive straight up the back of Ocon, but I don't want to believe that he would attempt that either. but what I'm saying is I can't refute it because I also can't explain why he just seemed to drive straight at the back of Ocon because everyone's baffled by that. Everyone is baffled by that, aren't they? Like, does anyone have any idea why he drove up the back of Ocon? And I'm not stirring the pot there. I'm not stirring the pot. But what I do need you to do, guys, is make sure you've hit that like button and smashed a like on the stream, and also made sure you've hit that subscribe button because I'm only seeing one like my side. So please do smash the like button for me, guys. It really, really helps. What do you think? Was he trying to do something, or a lapse of judgment? Was it age? Was it lack of reaction, or anything like that? What do you think? And there were some very strong words from Otmar, the Alpine boss, saying that the drivers need to remember they are... close the chat, hit like, and reopen the chat. Does it cover up the like? Is it not under the screen or whatever? That's interesting. He was saying that the drivers need to remember that they're just sort of the face of 1,000 people who work to put them into their position, and they need to do better. They need to do better. Now, you see, my issue, I mentioned age there, Stuart. What I'm about to talk about is the reason why I am talking about them is their performance. They were team of the day collectively. I think Mercedes are back where you kind of expect them, but Alpine pulling what they pulled off yesterday was quite the feat because Alpine are not Mercedes. And what was it in the end? 5th and 8th. And I actually did Alonso a disservice. I said he started in 15th, but he got a penalty, didn't he? So he actually started 18th. He made 12 places. I think it was 12. Was it 18th? But he made 12 places in the Grand Prix. Ocon made 8 places, I think it was, or 10. But they both made up loads and loads of places, drove as they should. And when I talk about the age a moment ago about Alonso, then he goes in and puts in a race performance like that, which for me, he was probably driver of the day, Alonso, yesterday. I'm honestly not sure why Lewis Hamilton won the official driver of the day. He had a very, very solid day. But I think I would easily put Alonso and Leclerc above Hamilton yesterday for driver of the day. So I was a little bit surprised when I saw that Hamilton had won the official driver of the day. Very confused by that. Maybe Brazil, maybe that, the connection there. But for me, I thought the Alpine team did pretty sensationally yesterday in the Grand Prix. The safety car did help Alonso because he had fresh soft tyres on and it closed everything up. But, I mean, it is subjective, but Hamilton didn't make a great deal of sense to me. I think you could have put quite a few I just named 2. You could probably put more above what Hamilton... Like, you'd put George above Hamilton for his first Grand Prix win, Hamilton did all right, but I mean, well, actually, was it 8th to 2nd? So you can't grumble at that, to be fair. But there we go. I just wanted to give them a shout out because I think after the disaster, which was the day before, I think they did very, very well indeed. So, well. You kind of can, Nikolai, but it's not that deep, is it? It's just how well a driver has performed on the day and what equipment they've got. It's not that deep, is it? There are quite a few drivers you could put ahead of Hamilton on easily. Anyway. And also McLaren having an absolute disaster of a day. Danny Rick, I don't think... I don't think that... can anyone even be bothered to talk about Danny Rick now? He keeps doing things, doesn't he? He keeps doing things. He keeps performing. We're going to speak about that in a minute, John. We're going to speak about that in a minute. I was trying to use about half the time for that. Danny Rick, honestly, look... I'm not sure I can really hear arguments about him, being unlucky to be out of F1 and things. He keeps making silly mistakes now. Yesterday it was entirely clumsy. Ruined K-Mag's weekend effectively. Lando with, I don't know the actual issue, but some kind of engine failure. Disaster now, because it looks like Alpine are going to be fourth in the constructors, and I don't think McLaren have got a chance because Danny Rick just hasn't performed. Hopefully he does what he should do in Abu Dhabi and performs well. But there we go. Well, I'm going to go on to the subject now. Right. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this crash for maybe the next 10 or so minutes. So, John saying, I really don't think Perez meant to crash in Monaco. And Jorge says, Max's snub is a huge gift for Checo. If Checo is smart, there is a way to play this. Also, Horner is in a tough position. Max has forced his hand. If Horner does not act, it's Red Bull game over. I really don't think it's that serious. I don't think it's Red Bull game over 23 serious. I think Perez still knows what side of his bread is buttered and that he's in a good position in Red Bull. I think he said some things in the heat of the moment, and I think Max did as well. And I think it's just racing drivers being racing drivers. So, but I did want to cover the apparent backstory, and my thoughts on this apparent backstory, basically. So, what is being reported is Max Verstappen saying no to Checo and the team's request to be allowed by is apparently and allegedly due to Checo Perez crashing on purpose in qualifying in Monaco, which allegedly, and I really say this strongly, allegedly, based on not very much at all, that he admitted to Christian Horner and Helmut Marko. Now, I am going to say media bias on this, right? Because let me just verify something. Verify something. Right, okay. So the initial source of this, right? The initial source of this was Tom Coronel, a Dutch professional racing driver who I've seen, and he appears to be sound, but he's outspoken. And the original source of this is Tom Coronel, that he knew someone and they said this. And also another Dutch media outlet has said this. Right, so look, if we're being completely honest about things, if we are being completely honest about this, Sky Sports love a little bit of British bias and controversy. I am going to go with that. That's how I feel about this situation. I don't feel it's true. I really do not feel it's true. I think this has been put about. I think Max Verstappen, this is not a dig, has somewhat of an echo chamber of positive reinforcement around him with the likes of Jos. Jos Verstappen does strike me as the type of individual that would be told this by a Tom Coronel and grab it. Because if you remember at Monaco, Jos Verstappen was very, very angry. He was very, very angry, right? I can't put it down to Verstappen being toxic and vile. I don't want to say that, right? I think Max Verstappen lives in a world where he is somewhat told what he wants to hear most of the time because he is now a double world champion. And I think Max is put into this echo chamber of Jos, who, look, do your own research on Jos Verstappen, and I think he is told things, right? So, and let's just lay it out as well. Let's just look at this situation. I don't want to do it to death, but let's look at the situation. What we're saying here, or what is being alleged, is that Checo Perez crashed on purpose to secure third on the grid. This is what we're saying. That Checo Perez crashed on purpose to secure third on the grid, right? And if memory serves, he only won because of Ferrari stupidity in the pit stops. Now, please do refresh my memory. None of that makes sense. Does it make... Rosberg, I've forgotten the year, 2016? Rosberg 2016. I've locked up and I've created a yellow flag. No one can go faster. Believe it. I believe he did it on purpose. Michael Schumacher, Raskas, parking his car, pole. I believe both of those happened as are alleged. You can't prove it. There's no way to actually prove it, but you can look at that situation and go, that makes sense why they would do that. Checo Perez crashing to cause a red flag while in third place. I'm sorry. That's... what would the word be? Tenuous? Exactly. Crashing these cars, particularly at the rear end, damage there would cause risk of gearbox and all sorts. If he was going to do it, that is the silliest way to do it. If you're going to do it, how Schumacher and Rosberg did it was right. And you were completely right there, John. Was it Leclerc got pole? I've forgotten what... Was it this year? When was it? Leclerc got pole, cracked the rear end out of the swimming pool complex, gearbox. So, look, that's my take on it. I don't blame Max. Look, I don't. This is so multifaceted, and what we have to understand as fans is life isn't binary. It's not red or green. You know, there's the amber in the middle, and the amber is where things are, the real life, the opinion and things. Now, what Max said over the radio, I don't like at all. The reasons why he might think that's valid, I can understand with the presumption he is surrounded by people telling him how good he is, that someone's out to get him. And does this make sense? Do you know? Does that make sense? And that's how I feel, because Jos Verstappen, I can't remember his quotes. He felt as if Max should have won Monaco. He felt as if they should have been swapped in Monaco. And look, let's put ourselves into a real human position. I remember Jos, after Monaco, coming out with stupid comments. I remember it. And everyone was just like, what's Jos on about? Checo's allowed to win. He won. He won the race. But Jos Verstappen, I seem to remember, was just going on and on how Max should have won that, how Red Bull favoured Checo. And if you have your father or your guardian or your main sort of advice giver in life like that in your ear saying that, you're going to believe that. And that's more likely than any crash on purpose. That's what I think. Look, I'm not in defence of him, Charlie. I'm not in defence of what he said on the radio. It's not right. I'm just trying to come to a conclusion as to why that may have happened. Because I really don't buy this on-purpose crash thing. It makes no sense. As John said, it's in a silly place, hitting a silly part of the car, because it risks gearbox damage. If you've watched F1 for even a couple of years, you know hitting the car there 9 times out of 10 seems to destroy the gearbox. So it was silly. It was the worst way it could possibly have been done, if that's what was done. And for third place, like, really? Like, really? You know. So that's what I'm thinking about this situation. And I agree. I agree, though, Charlie. I do agree. At that point, with the radio, Max doesn't look good. I'm on board with that. He doesn't look good at all. I just don't buy this version of events that the Dutch and now the world media are grabbing onto. It makes no sense. Jos, I think 10 points have been thrown away here, especially with 2 retirements. Don't forget Ferrari has the best car. Monaco comments. And you wanted Max to win. I think that is far more likely. I truly, truly do. I mean, you can disagree. You can disagree with my comments. And I'm not in defense of Max at all. I'm just trying to figure out a deeper reason why he would have taken that stance. I did see one which I think is deeply wishy-washy, but it's Karen Chanduk on, I believe, Sky Sports, saying actually just nonsense. Chanduk said, saying, I mean, I'm giving this for balance, but this is silly. I think that this is Karen. I think that was a racing driver thinking about himself and putting a stake in the ground of, I am the number one in this team. At that moment, as the driver in the cockpit, he's not thinking about all of these other factors, so there was very much about him establishing himself as number one driver in the team. I'm sorry, Chanduk. What are you talking about? Has anyone ever thought Max Verstappen was anything but the number one driver in that team? He is literally... that is some of the worst input I think I've heard on this whole subject. It's such lazy analysis. I think it really is. I'm not on board with that. I'm not on board with simply saying that's Max saying he's number one in the... Really? Really? To anyone, he's number one. Helmut Marko actually gave Jos a telling off after Monaco and hasn't been in the paddock much since. Yeah. And Helmut strikes me as the type of guy that would say that. I did have some quotes here from Helmut Marko. And, you know, I get that. Look, I don't agree with a lot of what Helmut Marko says, but I completely am of the opinion that when he isn't afraid to say what he thinks, and he will say it to anyone. You know, I think he would speak to a Jos Verstappen and give him some chelp, you know. Please do smash a like on the video, guys. It's very, very, very helpful. So he said, Max should do everything possible to help us finish first and second in the Drivers' Championship. I have nothing more to say about what happened. But he did reveal the drivers had shaken hands. So it's... The Verstappens didn't like that. Yeah, it's a strange thing. I don't feel like at any point Checo was actually in the championship conversation. He was about... I understand he was, but was he really? You know? Was he really? And by the end, no, he was nowhere near it, was he? He was nowhere near it. Now, let us have a look here. I'll end the poll. Did Perez crash on purpose in Monaco? We have 94% saying no and 5% saying yes. I guess that's because we've got an odd number and not enough people voted to, you know, make that work. So it will be like 94.9% or whatever. So 94% of people saying no, Perez didn't crash on purpose in Monaco. So we, you know, there's 94% of us saying that Perez didn't crash on purpose in Monaco. So that leaves us with another explanation as to why Max would think the way he does. And I've given my reasoning for it. I believe that Max Verstappen, again, he, just to quickly summarise, is just surrounded by people who will give him reasons, right or wrong, about performance or lack thereof, or reasons why a teammate would be doing better. And if his own dad is publicly making comments about lack of favour for Max, or that they're favouring the other guy or anything like that, then Max is going to be hearing that times 10 from his own father, which, whether you like it or not, for some people, including myself, your father is a highly influential person in your life, so you're going to believe it to a point, aren't you? You know, and that's where I stand. I'm not defending Max. I'm not defending Max. I want to try and figure out the real meaning behind it. You know, I want to find out the real meaning behind it, because, yeah, it's not good. Checo was in the championship convo. The mere fact that it was discussion rubbed the right. Yeah, probably. Do we know the Monaco incident? To be fair, Carl, it's all over the media, Carl. It's all over the media, and I mean, I don't know how much of what you've just watched, but please do watch what I've just said on the subject. Just watch what I've just said on the subject. Yeah, of course, indeed, John. You're going to be biased to those who influence you in life, aren't you? And I think we forget that these elite sportsmen from any sport, they have confidants. They have people of influence in their life. They have people they confide in who give them advice, and they get guidance from. And it's extremely clear that Max gets a lot of guidance from his father. So if his father is publicly one way, Max is getting that too, you know, right or wrong. And again, please, I'm not defending it. I think Max Verstappen was completely wrong. I thought a gesture the other way to Checo would have been lovely, and we've seen it many times in Formula One. Really quickly, I do just want to cover this really quickly. And I am going to sound like an old school snob. To the people saying, if you want to finish ahead of someone, just race faster, watch more Formula One. Team orders, team favours, and such like have been a thing forever within Formula One. So him doing that was not out of the ordinary, was not a weird request. It's been done lots in Formula One and always has been. Don't be ignorant. Look back at Formula One. Don't make silly comments. It's just a thing that happens in Formula One. A gesture here, a team order there. It's a thing within Formula One, and a driver being asked that isn't unusual at all. Lewis Hamilton got asked to let Bottas pass when he was second in the championship. I've forgotten what race, but I remember it happening. Didn't think Lewis was going to do it for a moment. He did, almost immediately. It's not a new thing. It's a thing within Formula One. Watch more of it. Chill out. Understand it. It's a thing. It's Hungary. There you go. Checo has just re-signed on Monaco weekend. No way, Checo. This is the thing, isn't it, Hulk? People forget that. Summer and Monaco together. Yeah, probably, John. But look, this has been a fantastic TSK F1. I've absolutely loved this. And we could keep the discussion going on for ages. Please do make sure you've subscribed, guys. Please do make sure you've subscribed, because I'm here every morning, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m, with the latest F1 news and roundup and things like that. So please do make sure you subscribe. We might be doing more race reactions, season review, things like this. So please do subscribe if you like your real-life F1 content. Smash a like on the video. And I'll be back at 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm about to go live over on Facebook Gaming on Pit Lane Sim Racing with some F1 Manager. We've got the Australian Grand Prix to look forward to. So please do follow me over there, guys. But until tomorrow morning, 9 a.m, thanks a lot so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I shall see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.